On this episode, we're doing a video on the genetics of Azaris. So relax and enjoy the video. Atropatene was an ancient Iranian kingdom established in 323 BCE. Centered in present-day Iranian Azerbaijan, its inhabitants were mainly Medes. It was established by the Persian satrap Atropates. You could already guess that Atropatene was named after him. The kingdom centered in present-day northern Iran was ruled by Atropates' descendants until the early 1st century, when the Parthian Arsacid dynasty supplanted them. After being conquered by the Sasanian ruler Ardashir I, Atropatene was named as Adurbadagan, which became a province of the Sasanian Empire. Ahmed Kesravi was an Iranian Azari scholar who was the first man to conduct research on the Pre-Turkic language of the Azari people. According to Ahmed Kesravi, the original Old Azari language is said to be extinct, however, its linguistic descendants live on. The Old Azari language was part of the northwestern Iranian language family. Its descendants are the Tatic group of Iran, not to be confused with the Persian Tats of Azerbaijan. The Azari language also had strong affinities with Talishis as well. According to Ehsan Yarshatar, Tati and Talishi are both continuations of the Old Azari language. Not to be confused with the modern state of Albania in the Balkans, Caucasian Albania, or as we're going to refer to its name by how the Middle Persians called it, Aran. Just to show you how much of a meme this civilization was, there is basically zero sources on the history of Aran before the 6th century BCE. So let's just talk about the relevant parts. The fact that the Albanians were under the leadership of the satrap of Media seems to indicate that people like the Cadusi and the Saka had been incorporated into his satrapy. According to one reasonable hypothesis, the Albanians would already have belonged to the Median Empire. Then comes our boy Alexander the Great. Although his empire didn't penetrate the Caucasus, since the Iranians did belong to the satrapy of Minya, they've surely had to be part of the Macedonian Empire. During the Hellenistic period, they joined with other neighboring tribes to form a unified state under a single ruler. It has been supposed that the unification took place towards the end of the 2nd century BCE. There are grounds for believing that the unification of the Albanians was a slow process which allowed the diversity of languages to continue for a long time. According to previously mentioned scholar Ehsan Yarshatar, in 253, Caucasian Albania got conquered and became a vassal state of the Sasanians. Our homeboy Strabo wrote that the Caucasian Iranians, I'm not calling them Albanians, so just forget it. In the 1st century BCE, at the present time, indeed, one king rules all tribes. But formerly, the several tribes ruled separately by kings of their own according to their several languages. They have 26 languages in total because they have no easy means of intercourse within one another. Now, as for what languages they spoke and what are its modern descendants, the answer to that would be, drumroll please, the Lesgic peoples, i.e. the Udis, the Lezgins, and Tabasaranis. Can't pronounce that shit. Okay, so this part's gonna come unscripted. There were some other parts of the script for the Caucasian substrate, but it's just repetitive information, and most of you guys, I doubt you guys even have the attention spans for that, so I'm just gonna skip it overall. So yeah, let's move on to the other section. Now, contrary to popular belief, the Turkic arrival didn't happen in just one wave. Turkic culture wasn't just brought to Azerbaijan by the Seljuks, it was primarily 3 major waves. The Seljuks, the Mongols, last but definitely not least the Timurids. Basically, the migrations all happened like this, not in a linear fashion. The Seljuk Empire was founded in 1037 by Tughral and his brother Chakri. He was born in 990 in Central Asia. He was a Sunni Muslim part of the Chunuk tribe. We won't be discussing the entire history of the Seljuks, just how they entered modern-day Azerbaijan. According to the Kamil fi Tarikh, Tughral entered Tabriz and conquered it peacefully with no war. Kinda reminds me of someone though. Later, the Seljuks entered Aran during the War of Ganja and ended up conquering it successfully in 1046. So that's how the first wave of Turks entered Azerbaijan and Aran. Now I'm gonna add one more thing. To claim that the Seljuks didn't have any impact on Azerbaijan and Anatolia, this is not exactly part of the video, but still trying to prove a point. It's impossible, because historically there is evidence. According to Peter B.Golden, I'll link the exact source in the description, around 2 million Turkic migrants settled in Anatolia in the 12th and 13th century. So yeah, take that as you will. The Eldiguzids was founded by Shams al-Din Eldiguz, who was an Atabeg of the Seljuk Empire. He was of Kipchak Turkic in origin. The empire was founded in 1136. The stuff in black is where the Oghuz Turks have settled, and the black lines is the migrations that the Seljuk Turks made. The Turks were steadily arriving to Azerbaijan and Aran more and more. The Atabegs of Azerbaijan was in the initial wave of Turkic migration and influence in Azerbaijan. The Khwarezmians began pushing to the Atabegs of Azerbaijan after the Mongol invasions in Khorasan, and the Eldiguzids fled towards the region of Ganja through Nakhchivan and Aran. By the way, before I explain any further, here's what the colored marked areas are and what the lines mean. Then the Mongols first enter Azerbaijan in 1221 and take several cities. The people of Tabriz offer tribute and surrender, and Tabriz is taken without blood. But Maragha is sacked. The blue lines are the Mongolian migrations and the military campaigns. The blue areas are where Mongols settled, which includes many Turkic tribes. And the Mongol armies continue their way towards the Caucasus and sack Beylagan and Shirvan in 1221 to 1222. Later they moved towards the Kipchaks through the Caucasus in 1231 to 1232. The Mongols chased the Khwarezmian remnants towards Aran and Ganja and passed from the Caucasus into Anatolia for invading the Seljuks. Then in 1233 the Mongols entered Muran and again invaded Azerbaijan. The people of Tabriz again paid tribute, and then the Mongols attacked Ganja in 1235 and sacked it. Fast forward to 1258, when the Mongol Empire collapsed and divided into 4 separate Khanates. What we'll be focusing on is the Ilkhanate. The year is 1258, and one of the most influential Turkic impact happened. In 1258, Hulagu Khan settled 150,000 families of Turks from Asia into Transcaucasia. Vladimir Minorsky feels that the Mongol elements were quickly assimilated among the Turks, adopting their religion and language. So a shit ton of Central Asian Turkic peoples were deported into Transcaucasia. It was one of the most important events of Azerbaijani history. That's pretty much the important stuff to know. On to the next section. The Timurids left another significant impact on Azerbaijan. Tamerlane invaded Azerbaijan in the 1380s, temporarily incorporating it to its empire. The Shirvan region was under Ibrahim I at the time, which was also a vassal state of the Timurid Empire, and assisted Tamerlane against the Golden Horde raids. The blue lines, as we said earlier, already represent the existing Kipchaks of the region, but they were displaced by Timur, so a Tatar Kipchak population began to exist in Azerbaijan. After Timur's death in 1405, 2 rival Turkic groups emerged from the west from his empire, Akkoyunlu and Karakoyunlu, white sheep and black sheep. The dark lines represent Akkoyunlu and Karakoyunlu. The tribes of Karakoyunlu were in Van and Mosul by the 14th century and were Jalayirid vassals, and then Kara Yusuf rebelled and captured Tabriz. Then he was defeated in 1400 by Timur. But other remnants were still present around Nakhchivan and Armenia, where they sacked and raided Armenians a lot. Then in 1406, Pir Budag, son of Kara Yusuf, rebelled and retook Tabriz and raided Shirvan. Later, Karakoyunlu was defeated by Uzun Hasan, the leader of Akkoyunlu, and collapsed. Akkoyunlu originated in Diyarbakir region, whom was part of the Bayandur tribe. After taking Azerbaijan and Baghdad, they faced threat from the Ottomans. Uzun Hasan was defeated in 1473 by the Ottomans. Then Sultan Yaqub led campaigns in the Caucasus and fought Georgia and the Shirvan Shah. Then had to fight the Safavids in Nakhchivan and withdrew. Then Ahmed Beg failed to resist, and Akkoyunlu was later defeated by the Safavids. The Qizilbash were a Shia military organization of the Safavid Empire. They were primarily of Turkoman origin, with some non-Turkic tribes. The non-Turkic tribes were called Tajiks by the Turkomans, and they included Persians, Lurs, Talishes, and Kurds. The Turkoman tribes of the Qizilbash were primarily tribes coming from the Ottoman Empire/Anatolia. It'll soon be apparent that they mixed with the natives of Anatolia in the genetic section of the video. They eventually joined the Safavid army in Iranian Azerbaijan, who helped Shah Ismail defeat the Bayandur tribe of Akkoyunlu. Here's a map of the migrations of Turkic peoples at the time. The green represents the Qizilbash settlements of Azerbaijan and Aran. The Qizilbashes were the primary group that shaped Azerbaijani culture. They were a mixture of Turkoman tribes from Transcaucasia and the Ottoman Empire, which thus brought native Anatolian DNA into Azeris and Iranians. The last final wave we'll be talking about will be the Qajars. At the time, Azerbaijan was split into several different Khanates. The Khanates of Azerbaijan were ruled by people of Afshar and Qajar origin, while in some places Quba Khanate had the majority Lezgin people, whilst Lankaran Khanate Talish and Baku Khanate had Tat people. But they've slowly mixed with the Qajar and Afshar tribes. There are also many different Turkic tribes living in these Khanates, such as the Karapapaks and Ayrums and many other different Qajars and Afshar sub-tribes. Now we've come to the most objective and interesting part, the genetics. As we've said earlier, the Azeris are primarily of Iranian origin, with Turkic admixture, deriving from groups such as the Seljuks, the Kipchaks, the Qizilbashes, etc. The Qizilbashes themselves had many Iranian soldiers, and the Turkomans themselves had mixed with the natives of Anatolia. Let us demonstrate all of this now. So, according to this model, Azerbaijanis are approximately 5 to 10% East Eurasian, being a mixture of East and North Asian. Compared to the surrounding nations of Azerbaijan, they completely lack East Eurasian admixture. Northern Azeris, which refers to the Dagestani regions and the Quba regions and Zaqatala regions, have the highest amount of native Caucasian admixture. The highest amount of East Eurasian admixtures from Kazakh, Tovuz, Borshalı, and Dashkesen regions. Later we'll see that these regions exhibit the most Turkic admixture. As for the lowest, that'd be Sheki Zaqatala regions, who barely have any East Eurasian admixture and exhibit the lowest amount of Turkic admixture. The sample that we're going to be using for Turkic will be Kipchak DA-179. To understand what the Turks that arrived to Aran and Azerbaijan were like, we have to see what Azeris are genetically closest to out of which medieval Turk. The answer to that is Kipchak DA-179. We'll be using him as a proxy for the medieval calculator we'll be using for Azeris. This is the genetic makeup of Kipchak DA-179. Despite me studying the field of genetics for over 3 years now, I still have no idea where the sub-Saharan African comes from. Anyhow, it's mostly steppe pastoralist derived and East Eurasian. We can get an understanding that the Turks that arrived to Azerbaijan and Aran were 1/4 East Eurasian. With that, we can finally make our medieval model for Azeris. I'm gonna briefly explain why I use the other samples. I use Ganj Dare to measure Iranianness because they're a medieval Iranian sample. Kabasaranis are basically a good Lezgic proxy for Iranianness. Greek Central Anatolia is a good proxy to measure Anatolianness because of medieval Byzantine samples are similar to them. The Turkicness in northwest Azerbaijan, regions like Kazakh, Tovuz, Shamkir, Borshalı have the highest amount of medieval Turkic, while, as I said, the more the Caucasianness increases, the Turkicness decreases. Though Caucasianness is very less in Azeris and is only significant in the northern regions such as Dagestan and Quba, Shaki, and Zakatala. Finally, in conclusion, I think the best way to summarize this video is with the Reddit post by user u/mutant14. Azerbaijani Turks are situated in a historically rich, ethnically diverse region. Their genetic history reflects that. They primarily descend from Iranic people, followed by a strong significant secondary Anatolian and medieval Turkic descent, and some notable Caucasian ancestry as well. The ethnogenesis of Azerbaijani Turks began with the settlement of the Seljuk era Oghuz Turks in Azerbaijan and their intermarriage with mainly Iranic locals, followed by centuries of back migrations into Azerbaijan and from Anatolian Turkic tribes / groups, notably the Qizilbash during the Safavid Empire, further intermarrying with the population. To say Azerbaijanis are a Turkified Iranic group that just adopted a Turkic language is demonstrably incorrect and completely disingenuous towards the complex ethnic and historical dynamics that have taken place in Azerbaijan during the past 1,000 years. He summarized it in a very beautiful and elegant way. Stay away from the Matrix. Peace out. Assalamu alaikum.